Hello, good evening and welcome to the Gooner Ramble and AFTV podcast. On tonight's edition of Behind Enemy Lines, we'll be trying to get the inside track on Arsenal's next opponent, Liverpool FC. We'll ask what makes SAS so prolific, how confident they are about Saturday's match, can they break into the top four, should we have bid 40 million and £2, and finally ask how much satisfaction they'd get from seeing Man United play on Thursday nights on Channel 5 and on TV4. Here to assist me in asking the questions are regulars Akhil.
Hi guys.
Alright, and Judd.
Good evening.
How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Yeah, good.
Good stuff. Alright, so and our special guest is self-confessed hippie and Nando's aficionado. He's the editor of the hugely popular This Is Anfield fan site. It's Max Munton. Max, how are you?
I'm alright, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. Right. Thanks for joining us tonight. Good stuff. All right, let's jump right into it. We're going to start by asking you how you'd assess the season so far.
Well, I think absolutely delighted, to be honest. I think if you look back last summer, there wouldn't have been many Liverpool fans that would predict that we're so close to the top of the table at this time and doing so well for fourth place. It's just started to create a little bit of a gap between ourselves and fifth place. And Champions League, the Champions League top four places have to be the priority still, but judging from where we were at a year ago, we just signed Daniel Sturridge and Philippe Coutinho. The season wasn't the best, still finished seventh. You know, Rodgers' first start, there's still a lot of dead wood in the squad, but you look at the squad now, still small, there's still work to be done, but I'm delighted that, you know, that we are still fourth at this time of the season, playing so well. I think it shows that we've come a long way just since August, really.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And what do you make of Brendan Rodgers' project? I know this week he came out and said you're out of the championship race. You know, it's too early. Do you see yourselves challenging next season? I mean, what do you reckon?
I think that's the question, isn't it? I think we'll have to judge it from what happens in May this year. If we get into the Champions League, that takes us to a whole new level. You know, in terms of type of players we can attract, the money we can spend, and unfortunately that's what football is these days, isn't it, really? Let's be honest. Getting to that stage, you become a new club, as it was, and it really cement us on our way to progress. I mean, I'm delighted with what Rodgers is doing so far. I think he's the best man for the job. We went through a few years of turmoil, and then when the new owners came in, they didn't really know what to do with the club straight away either. I mean, bringing down Shin was a bit of an experiment. It's what the fans wanted, and then when that didn't work out, they could say to the fans, "Look, we've tried what you've wanted. Let's bring in our man." And that was Rodgers. And he says the right things, and he's pragmatic. He's not afraid to make changes. I'm a big fan of Rafa Benitez. Probably the last time we had a bit of success as a club properly in the league, anyway. But he was stubborn, and I can sense this sort of like things change, the footballing philosophy changes under Rodgers, and I think by this time next year, then hopefully I'll be back on your podcast and we'll be talking about a title race between Liverpool and Arsenal, but I don't think we're quite in it just yet.
Cool. And what's the feelings amongst the fan base? I mean, what are their expectations now as we've turned into the sort of the home stretch, or the beginning of the home stretch? What are the fans' feelings?
Well, I'm sure Arsenal's fan base is the same. You get a mixture of sort of like the optimists, you get a mixture of the pessimists, and you get a mixture of the realist type of fans, really. I think it's easy to get carried away when you see Liverpool fourth at the table, and that we've been first straight away. But we were top earlier in the table as well, earlier in the season. Sorry. That it's easy to get carried away, say, we should be winning these games. We should have beaten Villa 2 weeks ago, and we should have beaten Southampton at home earlier in the season. We should have beaten Hull City away, but every team has these, and whoever's top of the table will have stumbled against the teams in the lower half of the table. And so fans' expectations sort of get carried away with this idea that because we were first for 3 weeks, that we should stay first for the whole season. But you have to keep remembering back to what the prediction was, what everyone was predicting in August, and it was hopefully we can get fourth place no one knew what was going to happen to Man United. No one knew Everton would be in the race really either. And I think to jump from 7th to 4th would be absolutely fantastic. And that's all the fans can expect this season really.
True. I mean, not only are you did you spank Everton and you've kind of usurped Man United, you've also given us a good chuckle. We've watched Tottenham spend in excess of 100 million and still get it terribly wrong. So
Tottenham are the makers of their own downfall, really, aren't they? For years now.
Indeed. I'm going to bring in Judd now. Judd, got any questions for me?
Yes. This year, Arsenal entered January looking for a striker, and last year you guys were able to add Sturridge during the January transfer window. Now, he was coming from Chelsea, and before that, I believe he was with City for a while, and he'd never really been able to establish a position with either club. I mean, he had a spot in the lineup last year with Chelsea, but never really had the prolific goal-scoring record that he's had with you guys so far. I was wondering if maybe you could give some insight as to, what you thought was able to get him over the edge and have so much success with you guys, and is it the partnership with Suarez, or is it just his development as a player?
I truly believe that we bought him. He was still quite young. Chelsea didn't want him. Chelsea never put the confidence in him under a succession of managers. What Rodgers has given to Sturridge is renewed belief. Really, so someone's come along, said, "Oh, we'll spend 12 million on him." Come in, said, "You're a good player, you can be a great player," and Rodgers said you can be a world-class player to him. And that's really given him the boost and the confidence he needs. I think he got a lot of criticism whilst he was at Chelsea, sort of branded the sort of greedy footballer, a bit out of his depth, but some playing time has really, he's been able to find his feet and find the player and the position that he can be consistently, both for Liverpool and maybe for England in the World Cup this year too.
Cool. We can't go without talking about the SAS and Suarez in particular. Was there at any point in the summer where you thought, as the papers, news in the papers was reaching fever pitch, was there any point in the summer where you thought, we could lose him here to Arsenal or Real Madrid or?
Oh, definitely. I think there were a number of times really that it looked like it was swaying towards an exit. I mean, I never thought that Arsenal would really be on the cards for him, and I think there was a lot of speculation about that, and I think Arsenal, obviously Arsenal were interested in him and tried to sign him, but I think if anything he was trying to use it as a way to get to Real Madrid. I don't think it's anything against Arsenal. I think it's just the things that he'd said prior to that about living in England and the English papers, really, it always seemed like he was pushing for an exit from Liverpool, and whether Arsenal were sort of the way out or the excuse, that sort of was what happened really. So I mean, I was covering it for This Is Anfield all summer, and there was twists and turns throughout every single day. I mean, it was our busiest ever summer on the website because everybody wanted to know what was happening with Suarez. And then when he came out to the papers and said, I want to leave Liverpool, I want to play for a Champions League club, shortly after Arsenal's strange second offer. Everyone, I jumped on the bandwagon. I think everyone did say, I'll never play for Liverpool again. But fortunately, we've got Rodgers, very calm and collected manager, and we've got John Henry as our owner, and he's a calm and collected person as well. And sort of took him to one side for a few days, and he missed a trip to, I think it was Ireland we were playing, and played a friendly against Celtic in Ireland. He missed that. He was training on his own for a few days. And I think whatever they've said to him, it's turned him round a bit. But I was definitely worried about him leaving, and likewise this summer, if we don't get Champions League, then who can blame him for leaving Liverpool, really?
Right. I mean,
do you think he's grown up a bit this year? I mean, there was always, I think with Luis Suarez, I don't know about you guys at Liverpool, but it seemed to the world that he's going to do something silly any minute now and get himself suspended or, like he has done in the past. But I think perhaps signing a new contract, the summer stuff, even captaining Liverpool a couple of weeks ago, it seems to me that he has grown up a lot this season. Do you get the same feeling, or?
Yeah, definitely. No, I think what you said spot on, really. We felt a sort of edge to his character still last season, and obviously that came out against Chelsea towards the end of the season with Ivanovic. Someone's had a good talking to him and sat him down and said, this is what you can do with your career, let the football do the talking. And he looks like a happier player now. He looks more in control of himself. I mean, everything that he ever did was always, it was always sort of knee-jerk by him. It was always, it always happened on the pitch. You never heard of him getting into trouble off the pitch like the way some footballers do with drinking or driving or anything like that. His character was something that, was inside him, a sort of like a temperament, anger that would happen spontaneously. And I think that's what people thought, that's what gave people the impression something could happen at any time. But I think, that sort of thing is controllable. And Rodgers is a big believer in sports psychology, and if he's brought someone to talk to Suarez and show him, this is what Liverpool Football Club's about, this is what you're about, this is your family are in between and they live in Liverpool too. I mean, he's got 2 children now, and they're both, he said they're both talking with Scouse accents and everything as well. So yeah, I think he's mature. He's 27 now, and I think as a young man, you naturally would mature at that age anyway. Yeah. So, hopefully it's something to do with the person inside him, regardless of the job he does as a footballer.
He still went down a bit easy against Villa, though.
I don't know, if there was a touch there, then yeah, really, yeah.
The old Michael Owen, if you feel a touch, you go down there.
That's it, yeah.
Speaking of which, there's been talk that Raheem Sterling has sort of taken on the mantle now. I think the other day he was accused of going down a bit easily. Is it against West Brom or some team? I'm not sure. But I wanted to ask about it's not only just a duo, it's a triumvirate now, isn't it? Because Raheem Sterling's sort of come into his own now and is... he's contributing very well, a lot to the team. He went for a patch, didn't he, of playing indifferently, and he got dropped, and then people were saying, he's been overhyped. I mean, what do you make of his performances now this season?
That's right. Well, he's still 19 years old, and there's still a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and I think that's come through being forced to play every game. Last season he sort of played every game for the first half of the season, and then sort of slumped off in form once he signed a contract halfway through the season, and that kept him happy, kept his family happy that they were going to be in Liverpool for a bit longer. And now we're seeing him sort of starting to flourish, I think, really, and it sort of goes back to Suarez. Really, I was writing an article for Bleacher Report today, actually, and in it I wrote how Suarez, he's a lot older than Sterling, and he's started to work well with him. They started to know each other's game. And Suarez is an important figure for him there. He's a role model in the team. You've got quite a young team as it is, so to have someone like Suarez in there supporting Sterling is really good. I think there's a lot more to his game to be developed. I think he needs to start adding more goals to it, but he's certainly becoming one of the front three with Suarez and Sturridge, really, and talked about and respected as a key role model. It's just easy to a key player. Sorry, it's just easy to forget how young he is. He's still only 19. So if the time came for him to have a rest from the side, then that wouldn't be the end of the world either. I think there's lots of time for him to evolve into the player he's going to be.
He's actually a massive part of your team as well. Because, I mean, when I look at Liverpool, I think of them when they're on the break. I think Liverpool are very dangerous on the break. I think that's one of your key attributes. And Sterling's a massive part of that. Of course, Sturridge is quick. But, I mean, Sterling's a big part of that. So I think if you did lose him, I think it would, have a big influence on you. So I think everyone talks about Sturridge and Suarez, but I think your game is certainly it's sort of you're happy for the other team to have the ball, but then when you get it, you sort of just go, and that's when you look frightening at times.
Yeah, he seems to stretch the game in the way that Theo Walcott did for us, because he's got he's speedy, he's quite direct, isn't he? He goes past players. So he definitely seems to bring that sort of threat to your attack.
That's right, yeah. I think also the way that Liverpool set up this season, we don't really play with a left winger or an attacking left-sided player. So a lot of our attacks have either been going through the middle via Henderson or Coutinho or Sterling on the right side, and it gives us a bit of width where we wouldn't normally have that width if Sterling wasn't in the team. So he's definitely exciting and dynamic player, and he can pull the ball up from defence to midfield rapidly as well. And I think that's what gives us the edge, like you said, in the counter attacks to get between a defensive phase of play and turn it into an attacking straight away. And the fact that he's formed relationships with both Suarez and Sturridge when the other of Suarez and Sturridge have been out of action for either suspension or injury this season is brilliant, really, because it's allowed him to become a more complete player and mature himself.
I want to ask you about the Steven Gerrard and Jordan Henderson. It seemed, when you played at the Emirates earlier this season, the game sort of seemed to pass Gerrard by a bit. I think Ramsey definitely got the better of him. Also at that time, I was looking at Jordan Henderson and I couldn't really see what the hype was about. My brothers who are both Liverpool fans were saying to me, look, this season, this is his ascension season, just like a couple of seasons ago, Lucas Leiva started to come into his own in the defensive midfielder role. But I have to say, since that game, Jordan Henderson seems to be taking that sort of mantle, or ready to assume the mantle, maybe in the not too distant future, from Stevie Gerrard as that sort of all-action driving force in the midfield. And Gerrard seems to be more, maybe because he hasn't got so much pace, but I almost see him as sort of a Pirlo, playing that sort of quarterback role, dropping deep, spraying the balls, spraying passes about. What's your opinion on Steven Gerrard's form and how much longer you reckon you can depend upon him? And also Jordan Henderson's ascension.
Okay, with Gerrard, I think that's a question that a lot of Liverpool fans are starting to ask, and it's starting to divide opinion on between Liverpool fans, really. How much of his selection in the team is due to a sentimental reason, how much is it talent? So he's obviously not the same player as he was in 2005, and for that reason he's been brought back into a deeper role, like you say, playing in front of the back four. I really like that position, and I think at the moment it's more important that Liverpool use Gerrard there to create their system for the future, so that the players around him know exactly what's happening with that system, rather than concentrating on whether Gerrard is the right person for that job. Because come the summer, we might sign a defensive midfielder and he can slot straight into that system if it's the right, purchase. That holding midfield role sort of relieves the pressure off the back four, which has been interchangeable this season. He can come back and act as another central defender at times, and also lay the passes off. Also, one of the great things about Gerrard's game is he can spray great 70-yard balls across the pitch. You can't really do that from the attacking position that he used to play, so hopefully we'll see more of that coming back, and just quickly changing that phase of play from defending into attacking and becoming a passing and counter-attacking team. As for Henderson, I think that's right what your mate's saying, really. He's really come into his own this season, and has been for about the last year or so. He came with a big price tag, and I think that put a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and a lot of people would look at him and go, well, he's not worth that. But now he's really he's become a focal point of the Liverpool team. His work rate is relentless. He can get forward and not afraid of coming back, although I don't think he's naturally defensive minded. I'm really impressed with Jordan Henderson in this campaign.
Cool. All right. This weekend sees the best, the most prolific strike force in this Premiership up against what Arsenal fans reckon are the best defensive partnership in the Premier League. It's fair to say that, early in his Arsenal career, Per Mertesacker was seen as some sort of lumbering oak, who couldn't turn as fast as milk. But now for the last calendar year and a bit, he's been the man, he's been our talisman in defence. Where do you see the weaknesses in Arsenal's team?
Do you know what? I'm usually really optimistic about, especially home games this season going into, but the way that Arsenal lined up against us and played a really professional and efficient performance when we played you at the Emirates earlier in the season really, doesn't fill me with the same optimism as it usually would, even against, one of the big teams. I think what we'll do is we'll go out there and we'll play like we do against any team, really. I think we show every opponent respect, but we know we can beat any team in the Premier League too. I think at home, perhaps our away form wouldn't agree with that. Our threat's going to be from the front three, really, of Sturridge, Suarez and Sterling. But as long as we line up with a solid midfield base. Joe Allen should be back. We've got Steven Gerrard in there and Jordan Henderson. And I think the game is going to be won or lost between either team in midfield. Now, you've got a few players out from midfield, haven't you? So Oxlade-Chamberlain's coming in, and he's not been playing there all the way through the season, although he has been impressive in that position, I think.
Wilshire's back as well.
Wilshire's also back as well, yeah.
Wilshire's back, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think the game's going to be won or lost in that position, really. So it's a case of, it's going to be quite cagey, really, basically trying to outnumber the opposition on the break, really.
Mm-hmm. Well, Arsenal hasn't lost at Anfield since 2008, so hopefully that's a good omen for us. But I want to bring Judd back in and really talk about your running. Judd, have you got any?
Yeah, this week I think Gary Neville came out saying that you guys are in the driver's seat for fourth place, but I don't know how much weight we can give his opinion because he seems to think that the race is going to be between you and United. How realistic that is, I don't know. But my question is, do you guys, have you given up on getting into the top three? You guys aren't that far off, and you're playing most of the other quote-unquote top sides at home, except for United. What do you think your chances are, for the rest of the season running in to maybe get into that top three?
No, yeah, I think, we've got a good chance, really. I think, we're just looking towards fourth at the moment, but as you say, if we do win this weekend, then we're 5 points behind you. I think 3 points behind the other teams. But no, not that far away from everyone now. And as you say, we've still got to play the big teams at home. We've got a good record at home. We can, we've got the confidence in there to win lots of games. We've also got a lot of players coming back from injury in the next month or so. We've got Daniel Agger, Mamadou Sakho, Jose Enrique, Glenn Johnson should be back soon as well. And they're really going to, tighten up our defence, and we're scoring goals for fun, but it's just the defence has still been leaking them in. I think if we can tighten up that problem, then we could have a really good run into the end of the season. But it's just keeping the confidence levels going, the performance levels going, and we'll see what happens with the teams in the top three, really. Arsenal, Man City and Chelsea have all got Champions League fixtures ahead. You've got a tough tie against Bayern Munich. That doesn't mean that you'll slip on your league form either. So it's all to play for, I think. The main thing is trying to fend off who's behind us at the moment. I don't think United will be anywhere near there at the end of the season. But Everton keep lurking. They keep looking like they might slip away, and then they'll come back with a really good result the next week. So, our concentration's on fourth place, and anything else is a bonus.
Okay. Akil.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think if you do get fourth place, I think that could be a good thing for Arsenal, because you play Chelsea and Man City in April. So the run-in, if that means you have to get a result against them to get fourth, I hope you get fourth, because that means we end the season champions. So I think Liverpool, regardless of where you finish, have got a massive sort of part to play in the title race. Obviously you may not win it, but you can certainly influence it. And I, for one, I think, if we're gonna get anywhere close to it, we will be relying on sort of, teams like Liverpool to get a result against Chelsea and Man City. So, yeah, I hope, I think it could be a very, very exciting few months for, the top seven generally. Yeah,
I completely agree. Good for the Premier League as well. It's about time we had an exciting second half of the season like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I want to talk about Axe. You really want to talk about the ticketing issue that's that was a highlight in the November game, is now becoming a highlight again for next week's cup game. What did you want to?
Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
No, go for it.
I was going to ask your. So I didn't know if that question was directed to me. I think it cut out. I was going to ask about, there's been quite a lot of stuff between Liverpool fans on social media, and it got into some of the national news as well, about a couple of weeks ago when the FA Cup draw was made and playing Arsenal at the Emirates Stadium on the February the 16th, that Liverpool fans requested, full allocation of 9,000 tickets, cheaper ticket prices, and an early kick-off time. And from that, they got slightly reduced ticket prices. I think it's Category B, which is still more than our Category A matches at Anfield. Which is I can understand, a team in the capital, you have, there's more money down there, but it's still expensive for the everyday fan that wants to go to the game. So we didn't really get that. The kick-off time's a 4:00 kick-off, so a late kick-off really. And I think Liverpool fans receiving something like 5,100 tickets out of the 9,000. Due to safety concerns of away fans standing on the upper tier. However, Coventry City got their full allocation in the last round. I was just wondering what your feelings on that are, and your thoughts and your knowledge of the Arsenal safety group who made the decision.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, I think from memory, the Coventry fans were all in the lower tier. So it wasn't, they weren't in the upper tier, but then we have had fans in the upper tier in the past. I remember Ipswich a few years ago were sort of in the upper tier. I think the safety aspect comes from whether you're standing or seating. Of course, when there's home fans, our stewards are quite hot on telling people to sit down pretty quickly. You can have a sort of a chance, you can hit the crossbar and then 3 seconds later you're told to sit down. So I think that may be a concern, because if you've ever been to sort of the Emirates Stadium upper tier, it is quite sort of narrow and steep, to be honest. I mean, you would think for a brand new stadium it wouldn't be, but it really is at times. So I can see why that came about. But then at the same time, right, I think, as I said, Coventry fans, I'm pretty sure, only got the lower tier, and they got a big stretch of that. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a part of the club, the police, I think everyone sort of has an influence on it. I think people do look at past. I mean, I'm not saying Liverpool fans have ever caused trouble at the Emirates. I don't know, but perhaps that's come into it. Perhaps they've found things in the past. I'm really not sure why you didn't get your full allocation. But I mean, in terms of the price thing, I think that's obviously been a big talking point for us as well. Because I'm not sure if you know much about how it works with us and stuff, but we get 7 cup games to our season ticket. Bayern Munich was it February the 18th or whenever it is, that was actually our 7th game. So anything over that, you then sort of, it gets added onto next year's season ticket. So when the Liverpool fixture was obviously announced, we knew it was a home tie, so we knew that would be our 8th game. So that was originally rumoured to be a Category A game, even though Arsenal say that they never intended to do a Category A game. But I like to think if maybe no one kicked up a fuss, what they would have done. But anyway, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. So, I mean, so then it got brought down to a Category B game, which is, I think, about, the cheapest is about 35 quid. 35 pounds, yeah, and then it goes up, obviously, depending on where you sit. So that was a little bit of a victory, I think, for Liverpool fans and Arsenal fans who campaigned together. I mean, we had a lot of supporters group writing to the club, and I think so did the Spirit of Shankly, and probably you guys as well, and other supporters groups. But then there was a little bit of a twist, because then Arsenal sort of announced that because the Liverpool game was arranged after the Bayern Munich, it's played before the Bayern Munich game. Yeah. The Bayern Munich game is now the 8th game of the season ticket. So actually, season ticket holders have lost out anyway, because now the 8th game is a Category A game, which means from £62 to about 125, the most expensive. That will now be added on to next year's season ticket, and we've also got
on top of the 3%.
We've also got 3% rise. So people could be paying about 200 quid more next year for their season ticket just because of one game. So it's we've sort of it's been interesting to see what Liverpool fans have been saying about it, because obviously they don't want to pay big prices, and with travel and everything, it's a very expensive day. But I mean, Arsenal fans themselves have been campaigning a little bit as well, because we've actually lost out a little bit. So, I think, but, the fact that it's a bit of Category B game is a good thing. I think on Saturday, I think my ticket was about 47 quid to come to Anfield. So if I bought my actual ticket for the FA Cup game, if I wasn't a season ticket holder, but I sat in the same place, I think it would cost me £39.50. So, it's not bad. I think the pricing for the FA Cup game. I'm not sure what would happen if we got a replay, Max. I mean, what do you think Liverpool would charge us? I mean, how do your categories work for home games?
Well, I'm a season ticket holder, so I'm trying to think. We have this, this scheme where you can sign up and have. If we get a home game in a cup, then the money gets automatically taken out of your bank account with direct debit. But obviously, because we've not been in Europe this season, there's not been that many cup home games yet. So I can't remember off the top of my head how much exactly it would be. I think looking between 45 and £50.
Yeah,
something like that for a North Premier League game. So it's all around the same. I mean, personally, I think it's too much anyway. But as people keep buying them to the club series and for lowering the prices, I'm not sure.
And that's the thing. I think a lot of football clubs, especially Premier League clubs, are looking at Arsenal as a business model and private business. They never do discounts, and they're not a charity. It's a romantic notion. I think a lot of fans think.
We do still pay Diaby, so we kind of are anyway.
That's true.
At the same time, I'm not obviously one to. I praise and I criticise when it's due, but Arsenal at the same time have with all our Carling Cup, or Capital One now as it's called, games are a tenner in the lower tier and 20 quid in the upper tier, and that's a fixed price depending on who we've played. So at the same time, the Arsenal-Chelsea fixture this year or the Arsenal-Man City last year was obviously quite tasty because that's a big game at a cheap price, and also it's been a new sort of junior gunner section. I think it's between if you're 6 and 12 or something like that. And I think their tickets are about a tenner for even Premier League games, for some Premier League games. So there is good stuff going on as well. But I think if you're not a junior gunner and you want to go to a big game, you do have to pay up a lot of money.
And that junior gunner allocation is taken away at FA Cup. Is it FA Cup or Category A game?
Yeah, it might.
Because obviously they want to get as many fans in the stadium as possible, paying top fee.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's taken. But I also wanted to say that in terms of the allocation, I think the competition rules state that the away club can take up the extra 15% allocation, which would bring up to 9,000 fans. As Akil said earlier, Coventry were given the 9,000 allocation, but they only took up 5,186. My feeling, my gut feeling is, with the bigger games, the bigger clubs, the bigger fan bases, I think that they don't think that they can trust the fan to be responsible individuals and adults. Obviously there's chants and there's banter and whatnot, and I think that they think that you allow too many opposition fans into the stadium, you're drinking and whatnot and so on and so forth. You could be asking for trouble. That's what I think that the club or the council, because I think it's a council ruling that said that the clubs are better off giving Liverpool the lower allocation, the lower amount of seats or whatever allocation. So, I think the club have tried or whatever, but for some reason the sticking point is in the actual competition rules. And so we're waiting to hear, the club's answer to that. Why have they ignored the ruling that, an away club can take up the actual 15% allocation. Also, on top of Axel also made a point about the upstairs, the upper tier, and it has been said that the design of the stadium is not made for standing. I mean, like when they designed the stadium, it was designed for seating, and I was chatting to a guy from BSM the other night, and he said, look, when you want to chant or cheer if you're at a concert, you can't sit down and cheer. Naturally you get up to cheer, don't you, and sing or whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
And the stadium, as the Akil said, the upper tier is quite steep. It's on a steep kind of incline, and it's not conducive to allowing people to stand and cheer and, and chant and whatnot. And I think there is something, whether it's true or not, but I think there is something to be said for, the architecture of the stadium. It seems as though acoustically and so safety reasons, the upper tier definitely isn't designed for people to stand in. What do you reckon to that, Axe?
Yeah, I used to sort of, I helped out the club in stadium tours during the Olympics and stuff, and there was some sort of briefing we got that I was expected to learn, but I didn't. but there was something about, there was a few choices Arsenal made, and I think top priority was Arsenal had a vision that you can sit anywhere in the ground on any seat, lower tier, upper tier, in the corners, high up, low up, and you should have a good view. And you should, you should be unrestricted and have a good view. And I got to say that this season particularly, I've sometimes given my season ticket to friends and sat with other people just to experience different things. And I got to say that is true. I mean, I've sat all sorts of places this year, and I have always had a decent view. Of course, if you're row 1, 2, 3, or 4 behind the goal, you're going to have the net there, but you can't do anything about that ever. So unless you don't have seats there. So it is. I think Arsenal certainly went for the view aspect. Of course, standing in the upper tier wasn't something on the briefing sheet, and it's probably never really come up. I think now the stadium's built, I'm not sure what they could do there. And I guess you're probably right, Giles. I mean, having maybe 9,000 away fans, doesn't matter who they are, on the lower tier, that could be a potential risk in itself. I mean, we saw how many coins were thrown at Theatre Walcott, and I know maybe that's because it was Spurs, it was a North London derby, but football fans are football fans, you sort of, it's perhaps a slight stereotype generalisation, but I don't think some fans are worse than others or better than others. I think football fans are football fans, and maybe that's the fear that, when you've got a big game, and it's going to be a passionate game, Arsenal, Liverpool, two massive clubs who arguably FA Cup is a real chance for success. It's maybe, they've just thought it's just too dangerous if something breaks out, or, as you say, on a Saturday, was it Sunday, 4 o'clock, isn't it? All day you've got literally all pubs open at 11, 12, you've got 4 or 5 hours of drinking. It's certainly, I think maybe what I think, if in an ideal world, it could have been, a 1:30 on a Sunday and given 9,000 Liverpool sort of allocation, because that might have made a bit of sense, a slightly earlier game, less time to drink. Fans are happy, but of course, Sky and BT wouldn't be happy. So we live in a bit of a tough world at the moment where TV broadcasters want their way, fans want their way, clubs want their way. The railway probably want their way. So I can imagine
Transport for London,
Well, Transport for London, and also I can imagine sort of Virgin trains and London Midland trains going up to Liverpool on that Sunday might be a bit tight as well. I mean, I'm not sure.
And the police also want their way.
Well, of course, yeah, exactly. If there's any other events in London, we can't. I mean, the police refused us to have the Emirates Cup a couple of years ago because of the Olympics, because they just didn't have the manpower, which you can sort of understand. So I think it's tough. I don't think there's a single organisation you can blame as such. I just think that's sort of the world we live in at the moment.
It's just a shame that they can't take up that the upper tier isn't, conducive to standing. Because when you go to somewhere like James's Park or Man United, Old Trafford, they tuck you up they tuck you away.
James's Park. I mean,
miles on.
How to get upstairs.
Yeah.
They get knackered at the top, aren't you?
Absolutely. I mean, we played there at the end of last year, so we needed to win to get.
That's right.
And it was, you're nervous as it is. A lot of us had spent the weekend at Newcastle as well, so we were hungover and walking up those stairs. It's a nightmare now. Mate,
it is.
Yeah. Make sure you're fit if you ever go up there.
Exactly. So, I don't know, Max, I mean, what's the feeling amongst apart from the SOS, what's the feeling amongst Liverpool fans? Is there a lot of sort of derision? Do you feel hard done by?
I think there's a mixture of sort of not understanding where the decisions come from. I think, because of the nature of things like Twitter and short messages, a lot of fans have understood it that Arsenal Football Club made the decision, which obviously isn't the case. I think the things that are coming in, SOS are kind of the main sort of speaking point from Liverpool fans, really, and in an official capacity with other organisations and towards clubs, if it's not always reciprocated, and they're doing a good job at that. So I think they are frustrated with the outcome, I think, and especially it comes considering that they had already made these requests in the first place. I mean, we talk about not being on the upper tier, but like you said, why can the away fans not be? If they truly believe that the away fans are going to stand up, and there are arguments to say that will happen, why can't we be in the bottom tier? I've been at the Emirates before and just been in the bottom tier, and I've only ever been in the bottom tier before. So I don't know. I think it's a bit of I think it's more of a frustration really from general fans.
Yeah. Well, what I will praise is I've just been looking at your website, and I've sort of seen that if you've been to an FA Cup game, I think it was Bournemouth, wasn't it? If you've been to Bournemouth, and you're a member, and as long as you sort of book in the right time, you're guaranteed a ticket, which is great, because often you get people who have been to loads of games, and then when it comes to a big game, can't get a ticket. I mean, that happens at Arsenal, so
like me.
that's a really good idea, and it's something other clubs should certainly take note of.
Yeah, split by competition. The only problem you do have with it is fans buying up tickets and then selling them on to their mates for a match. So someone could end up getting a ticket for the final, having sold on all their tickets. But no, there's not really many ways around that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean that happens here. I think our Stoke tickets sort of went on sale. I think it was last week sometime, and on the day of sale there was people selling their tickets. So they've obviously bought one for the point, so they can go to Chelsea, Tottenham,
That's
Liverpool.
It, yeah.
So yeah, that is a bit of a problem as well. Yeah, I think that's a problem everywhere though.
Yeah, there's not really a way around. The only way I can think of solving that is like fingerprint recognition, but then that's going a little bit too 21st century, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, they do that in Europe, I know, because sometimes some European tickets are quite cheap. So I think some people were sort of paying £15-20 for a ticket and not going, and then just getting a sort of a loyalty point and away point. But I think now I know Arsenal for sure, I'm sure others do it, sometimes give a voucher in as you're going in, and then you have to it's got some sort of a number, or you send it in or whatever, you redeem the voucher for your away point, so you have there to get it, which is quite a good idea, because you don't want empty seats at a football ground as well.
No,
exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Cool. All right, so let's move on to Saturday's game, and I want to ask you how confident, I don't know if I asked you already, but I'll ask you again, how confident are you of getting a result, being that you're at home, you're the second highest scorers in the league after Man City. Do you think that what are your feelings?
I think because it's Arsenal, I'm less optimistic than what I would be if it was Chelsea or Man City, to be honest. And that's only because of the way you played and the way you stopped us from playing when we went to the Emirates. But this one's at Anfield. It's a different story. And the last time we were there, we beat Everton 4-0, and that's a massive game for us as well. So, if we're starting to win the big games, even if it's just in the home fixtures, we've already beaten Manchester United before as well. It's a good sign, really. It shows that we can raise our game, and if the crowd are there and if the crowd are behind the team, then I really think there's something that comes together. And Rodgers touched on it in his press conference today at Melwood, and he was talking about everybody raising their performance levels for the big games, really. But the only thing that concerns me is that Arsenal's efficiency and the organisation that we showed against us was really impressive. Really stopped us from playing the game that we were doing so well at the time. We're doing. I don't know. We could sneak. It's either going to go one way or the other. I think it's either going to be a very low-scoring game, or one team's going to completely lopside the match, and it could be either team. I think both teams are capable of doing that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so your prediction?
I'll go for a sneaky 1-0 Liverpool win with a really, really early goal. I think we're good at sitting on a lead, so we'll score an early goal and then we'll see it out for the rest of the 89 minutes.
You'll park the bus at home. Ooh, dear, oh dear. Good stuff. All right, Judd. Predictions for this weekend. First score. Sorry. Can I ask Max who's going to be the goal scorer?
Sorry, say that again.
Who will score your one goal?
I'd love it to be Suarez. After everything last summer, and he just throw £1 back in the crowd at you.
To be fair, it's the same pound Jamie Carragher threw at us at Highbury.
That's it. Yeah. What goes around comes around.
Cool. All right,
the pound's worth more now, so actually, inflation and all.
Gone up inflation, yeah.
Well, Max was saying earlier that he isn't always overly confident with their defense's ability to hold on to a goal, and then in his prediction, he thinks he's going to shut us out. But for me, I don't know how confident I am in getting a full 3 points from this match, but I don't see us going and not getting some sort of result. I'm going to go with a score draw. I'm going to say 1-1. I think that we're going to be a little bit conservative out of the gates. We like to start games in second gear too often, and I feel that it's going to be Suarez opening the goal scoring, and then I'm going to go with Wilshere making his return, scoring a equalizer, and then playing out the 1-1.
Akil?
Well, I always say an Arsenal win because I think we'll beat Bayern Munich. I think we'll beat them 7-0 to me. Now I'm kidding, but I got to go for an Arsenal win. I'm sort of expecting and hoping a big performance from Mesut Ozil. The last away game we had at Southampton, I thought he really stepped up in the second half. So I would say 2-1, even though our defensive record is pretty good. I can't see Liverpool not scoring at home, so I would say 2-1 to Arsenal. My goal scorer, Ozil, will be involved somewhere and maybe get a goal.
Cool. All right. Well, I've got a feeling that King Colo is going to be as generous to us as he was to West Bromwich Albion the other day. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring match. I'm going to go for a 2-2. And I think I've got a feeling Liverpool's going to score first, actually. I've got a feeling it's going to be one of the SAS. But our first goal scorer, I'm going to say Giroud. So there you are. So I think it's going to be a packed ground over there this weekend. I think everyone's going to be there, isn't it, Max?
Yep.
There'll be no empty seats this weekend.
No, it'll be packed. Yeah, especially after the Everton game. I think that put us in good voice. Wasn't so good going to West Brom last weekend, but there's still a confidence level that's quite high because of winning the derby so recently.
Cool. And Akil, you'll be going up there, won't you?
Yeah. Early start on Saturday.
Good stuff.
I look forward to it. Anfield's always a good place to go, and Arsene Wenger today in his press conference praised Liverpool fans for sort of always being there, always creating an atmosphere. So yeah, I can't wait.
My brothers.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, being from across the pond, I'm going to have to be waking up bright and early, catching on the telly, and actually have a good mate over here who is a Liverpool supporter, and I'm going over and watching the game with them.
Yeah, a bit of banter over there. Huh?
Yep, some early drinking.
Good. My brothers go up there regularly, and they said that Crystal Palace were the best set of away fans that went up to Anfield. I mean, the other day we was at the Arsenal Crystal Palace game, and they outsung us, at our place as well. But yeah, my brother was saying that Crystal Palace were unbelievable.
Yeah, I remember them being really fantastic. Really, it was quite early on in the season, and they sort of went into it. It was sort of like it felt like it was quite a young crowd. I don't know if they've had any sort of push to get young supporters in or something, but it felt like they weren't taking it too seriously. They kind of felt like they knew they weren't good enough to stay up in the Premier League for a whole season, and they might be now. They've got, I think that was before Pulis came in. They went into it with it was good banter and good spirit. It was, I remember.
Well, Arsenal fans have also been quite well received in away grounds this season, haven't they, Aki? I think we're up there in terms of voice and noise and making it create an atmosphere.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Arsenal fans away from home are brilliant. We don't stop. At home, you could argue we're not great, but now away from home, we'll be in that away end. Hopefully I'm not on the extreme right with the restricted view, because I do remember one year missing Andre Arshavin's second, I think, from the 4 goals. So, but we'll be there, we'll be there loud and proud and hoping for an away win.
Good stuff. All right. We're going to wrap it up now. So I want to thank our special guest, Max Munton. Thank you very much for coming on, Max.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Right, and good luck for the rest of the season. Obviously not this weekend or next weekend, but definitely put that aside for the rest of the season. And I'm going to thank my 2 regulars, Akil.
Yep, cheers. Thanks for having me on again.
And Judd, say good night.
Been a pleasure. Good night, guys.
Great stuff. All right, and that's been a Gouda Ramble, Arsenal Fan TV podcast. Thanks for listening.